Good evening and welcome to The Right Side, the show where we talk about today's news, views, and trends from an admittedly conservative perspective. I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and this evening we're joined by Don Williams, who's part of the coalition known as Stop the Bag Ban. And Don, thank you for showing up and for sharing with us this evening.
All right, thanks for having me.
So it's interesting. People say, how important could a bag ban be? But if I ever want to start a riot in a grocery store line, all I have to talk about in my part of the world, which is Alameda County, is that these bags are not allowed to be consumed anymore by people without paying for them. And they go ballistic, including the cashiers. But what got you fired up about this?
Well, I think it was, as it started, it's the typical kind of liberal thing that kind of rolls out, right? When you first hear about it, you think there's no way. They're not really seriously talking about this. And then you start to realize, yes, they are seriously talking about this. Then you start thinking, even if they put it out there, it's not going to get voted through. But then you start thinking, well, it looks like it is going to get voted through. And then pretty soon it's there, and you have all these people that are really angry and upset about it, as you mentioned.
And do you actually get to vote on it? Who votes on these things? Because I know the citizens didn't in our area, but the county banned them anyway.
Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the key issues for our group. The key issue is that people don't get to vote on it. Basically, they don't even really take official polls. So we don't really know, but we look and it seems like about at least 60% of the people are against bag bans. And you hear more as you start talking to people. But they never take a poll, they never put it to people to vote, and that's kind of our key issue. We would like to see the people vote on it rather than just 3 or 5 council members in these small cities deciding like, yes, we want to do this, we want to jump on this kind of eco-fad movement and follow the other cities. So we'd like to see people vote on it because we think that majority of people basically don't support the bag bans.
Right. And so talk to me a little bit about how your group formed. I mean, you obviously found a few other angry people. What was the catalyst behind it?
Yeah, it's, if you go to any place online, if there's any kind of article in the paper that goes online, you go there and you see all these people that are really upset about it, and the majority of people are upset saying this is stupid, it's ridiculous, I use my bags for all these other things. And so I haven't really been active in anything else before, but I said, they're all asking the question, isn't someone doing something about it? So I decided, well, I'll kind of step forward and set up a group and kind of collect people together and see what we can do. And that's how we basically form. We're just a citizens group. We're not funded by anybody or evil big oil or anybody like that. But we just kind of got together and said, let's try to see what we can do and write letters and take some actions and see if we can, get a voice of the people back into this.
So when you're talking about going and finding people on websites, is this mostly like I hate the environment, choketheseagulls.org? What is this where you're finding these people?
Yeah, most of the people, it's interesting because one of the main things about the people is they're usually very quick to say, make sure that everyone knows that we're not for litter. We don't hate the turtles or hate the birds or anything. We don't go in and throw bags into the creeks, on purpose or something. Most of the people like me are very, responsible regarding litters, and we hate litterers. When I'm walking down the street, if I see some litter, I'll try to pick it up. Very concerned about nothing flying away from our garbage cans. So the people are actually very responsible, but what they see in the bag ban is just like the government stepping too far into personal lives, and people asking the questions like, I go to the store, I get a bag, I use it responsibly, I reuse it for garbage cans or picking up dog poo, or in my case I've got 3 little boys, it's usually for wet swimsuits in the summertime.
Been there, done that.
So we reuse them for all these purposes, and then we put them in the garbage can, but yet we're being blamed because they say, well, there's some bad people out there that are littering these. Mm-hmm. And people are asking, why? That's not me. There's a litterer problem, and you should go after the litterers, or maybe the garbage companies are not properly securing their loads. And, if you follow a garbage truck down the street, you'll see garbage flying off of it. The city should really be going after those people, the litterers and the garbage trucks, instead of the average person.
You mean that they're willing to punish the entire society for the misbehavior of a few?
Yeah, that's the main argument that they have.
Wow.
For bag bans.
It's just because people are so irresponsible. That's what it really is.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues we have is that they're taking like the bad behavior of a few and then projecting that onto everybody and punishing everybody.
Welcome to California, comrade. Yeah. That's pretty much how it works. So, so your group has gotten together. Mm-hmm. They've decided that they want to do something What is it that they're trying to do, and where are they trying to do it?
So a couple of key things. We've been a group for about 2 years since it started in San Jose. A lot of people are very active in writing letters, so we've kind of taken the route of trying to go to city councils, like in Cupertino and Campbell and Los Gatos. So several of us go there and we try to argue logical points. One of the main points we argue is asking the cities, like, where is your bag problem? Can you show us in your city? Can we drive out after the city council meeting and show us, these millions of bags piled up somewhere? We try to get these kind of points across, but generally we're just basically ignored, and then the city council just kind of passes them through. So we do that. We've written some articles, different articles, kind of attack the facts, and then we've also started a petition to get an initiative on the ballot in Campbell. If we can get enough signatures to qualify it, then the people of Campbell will have actually the first opportunity to vote on the bag ban, and get it before the people and let them vote. If they vote they like it, they want the government to control them in this way, then fine. But we want to give them a chance to say no, they don't want the government to control them.
So what's interesting, though, is people think because the city councils or the counties or others are causing these bag bans to occur, that maybe they're getting something out of it. Once they're implemented, you actually have to pay for a bag if you want one. You're limited on what kind you can have, but you have to pay for one. Where does that money go?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's two parts to the bag ban, actually. So the first part is the plastic bags. And this is what all the arguments are about. They say there's this great Pacific garbage patch out there. Even though there's no plastic bags in it, they still use it as the main argument. There's all this plastic floating out there. And so they'll say that plastic is bad, plastic is evil, blah, blah, blah. We have to therefore ban this one particular use of one particular type of bag and one particular application. Mm-hmm. But then the second part of it is this kind of a side effect is that instead of just banning the plastic bags, they said, well, what are we going to do about paper? Because if people switch to paper, then it's going to be kind of worse, because paper in many cases is actually worse than plastic. I mean, you get a stack of 1,000 paper bags, it's like 8 or 10 feet tall, but 1,000 plastic bags is a little box. So paper bags are actually a little bit worse. So they said, well, what we have to do is we have to stop people from getting the paper bags. Now the problem they had is that they can't pass a new tax on paper bags, because then it would have to be voted on by the people,
right,
which they have to avoid, right? They don't want the people to vote on it. So they came up with this nifty idea of a minimum fee, they call it. And so what they said is they say, well, let's assign this minimum fee now to this one object that's used in this one particular way, which is paper bags. And so the minimum fee is then collected by the stores, and then they keep the money for the minimum fee, supposedly to offset, the bag costs. But that's the way they get around the tax laws. Is they say, well, it's not a tax, it's a minimum fee. Even though it feels very much, if you go in the store, it feels very much like a tax, mm-hmm, it's actually not, it's a minimum fee.
So what you're saying is that the cities and counties are in the pocket of big grocery.
In some aspects, yeah. I mean, originally when the bag ban went through, we thought, the supermarkets are going to rise up and say, no, this is terrible. Because what we saw in a lot of cases is that the plastic baskets that are in a lot of stores, those all disappeared, right? Because everyone started using those to carry their groceries and things back to the car, and then they just put it in the trunk and drove off because people are so angry.
It's better. So it's better for the environment, and it's also, you're less likely to get E. coli from that than those reusable fiber bags, because you can hose them out. Yeah. So it's actually a safety feature.
Yes, but we thought that the stores would step up, and then we were wondering why aren't they? And in fact, some of the big stores, like the Safeway and stuff, started writing letters supporting bag bans. And which we thought, this is odd, until you start actually doing the old phrases like follow the money, mm-hmm, right? So we've talked to people that work in some of these big stores, and they say, oh, they sell these 10-cent bags left and right all day long. They're collecting millions of dollars. So that's another thing that the paper bag fee goes for. It's kind of bribe money to the stores to say here, which is, the big stores collect it, they like it, they keep it. But the small mom and pop shops, that's where it's a bigger problem, because they've printed up a bunch of bags they now have to throw away. They have some new regulations of what kind of paper bag they can offer. they've got to go find that manufacturer. They've got to get, you know,
And they can't buy in the
certain
same
bags.
bulk that the big guys can?
No, no. So it's a lot of problems in the smaller shops.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing I don't like is an unintended consequence is it gives the checker at the grocery store too much power. One of them the other day told me that this bag was on her, gave me the code wink, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, I feel violated and dirty now, and I'm just grocery shopping. Leave me alone, don't bother me. But yeah, it goes that way.
And we actually have several checkout people in our group.
Well, they feel guilty about it, right?
Yeah, well, they've told us like a lot of horror stories about people coming in with these reusable bags that are filled with cat hair all over them, and they throw them up on the counter. And when the bag ban first started, I asked one of the Safeway managers, what's your policy for reusable bags? If I bring one in, it's dripping with, you know, bloody juice from yesterday's, you know, meat purchase, and I throw it up on your counter, is that okay? And they looked at me like,
inside out. It's clean on the inside.
They haven't even thought about it, right? So the checkout people are dealing with all these dirty bags. They're supposed to actually go tackle or stop people from walking out with those baskets because you're not supposed to leave the store with them. And so they have and they're lifting all these heavy bags now because the reusable bags actually hold a lot more. And then when someone pays the 10 cents, which they hate, you know, they grumble, they want those 10-cent bags filled to the rim. So now they're lifting up, you know, 20 and 30-pound bags up here instead of, you know, easily using like plastic bags like they were before. So there's a lot of side consequences to the bag ban that weren't really thought through.
Well, and one of the things I've heard is that there's what they call a shrinkage problem. Because if somebody has to load up their backpack because they're not allowed to do the regular bags at the front counter, then, you know, either by mistake or sometimes not by mistake, stuff walks out the front door. Have you heard anything about those kinds of things, even anecdotally?
I have anecdotally. I've heard of some stores that they hire more security guards. You know, they had to cut some checkers to hire a security guard to stand there. They've had to like funnel people through their check stands. You know, they have more like gates up, like corralling people so that they walk through a certain place. Interestingly enough, you know, of course, like when the cities do their follow-up reports, they never go ask stores about shrinkage or loss or theft. They don't include any of that. So it's kind of unspoken, not really discussed.
Well, but what's interesting is the point you just brought up about personnel shifts. So what you're doing is you're actually taking away revenue-producing people who are customer-facing, and now you've got to replace them with somebody who doesn't produce revenue, who's a security guard or something else, all of the additional liabilities. You're looking at potential workers' comp issues because of the heavy lifting, and you're looking at having to buy more rubber gloves because that's the only way that they can safely handle the groceries when they're putting them in the cat bags. None of this is factored in as an unintended consequence?
No, not really. And there's just a ton of unintended consequences to the bag ban. It's complicated. People are confused. People are angry. People are leaving their bags in the car, having to go back out. There's these issues with theft. You know, it's one of the things that bothers most of us is that there's so much work and effort being put into dealing with a plastic bag ban and having to buy reusable bags and to manage those reusable bags and wash them and, you know, keep them stocked in your car, which actually you're not supposed to because that's where bacteria grows if it's in your car.
It's the right temperature for cooties.
Yeah. So there's all this hassle, there's confusion, there's people calling up the city, and there's all this, and the problem is we don't really see a big benefit. I mean, the city will claim there's some benefit, like, oh, we collected a few less bags, you know. But if you look at the cost per family, we've estimated it to be up to about $200, $250 per year per family if you factor in all the time consumption that the family has to go through, you know, the extra time to take bags out, put them back in, and check them in your house and put them back to your car and wash them sometimes. All this is hassle and money that the city councils never even really think of, right, when they're passing these. All that money could be better used. It's our opinion, it could be better used to really attack the problem. You could hire more city workers to go pick up plastic bags. You know, there's like millions of dollars being spent by individual families to deal with the plastic bag ban that we think could be better used.
So how far do you spread out with your group's tentacles? You've mentioned a few of the South Bay cities. How many cities are you trying to?
Mostly the South Bay cities. Most of the people are from the South Bay. There's other people now, like in Oregon, there's one of the city councils actually put it to a vote of the people. They had the guts to actually let their people decide, and they voted it down. They voted it down, 57% to like 42%. So when the people had a chance, they did vote it down. There's a guy up in Washington who actually is just qualifying this week to get all the signatures to get a repeal effort there. There's a guy I work with in Southern California that writes a lot of papers. He's more like an analytical type. He goes and investigates and researches a lot of these claims that are made and writes papers about it. So there's people kind of spread around, but we're mostly focused in the South Bay area and dealing with some of the cities in the South Bay as they've kind of marched along. But in reality is that a lot of the cities have just gone ahead and implemented the bag ban. So we're basically at the point now where we think the best thing to do is to get a repeal effort going in a city or several cities, let the people vote on it, bring it up for a vote.
But this is national tyranny, man.
Yes.
How can people get together or form their own groups? And do you guys counsel them on how to do it, or are there resources that they can tap in? That, like, for example, not everybody knows that the guy in Southern California is writing papers that might help
Right.
them with their cause. How do you
Right.
get the word out? And or would you be willing to share the knowledge with others?
Yeah, and we do, because I mean the process of a repeal effort, for example, it's a multi-step process, and you have to go through these things with the city council. There's a lot of factors to think about. There's a time factor and what you're going to write and legal factors. And so, we've helped talk about this with people who have said, oh, we'd like to do something in our city. So they can contact us. We can kind of, share some experiences about what to do and what's been successful, things like that.
Okay. And so what are some of the things that you found to be most successful, or what are some of the arguments? You'd said you're trying to apply logical arguments to these city councils. What have been some of the things that actually make it look like they've stopped in their tracks and paid attention to you for 30 seconds and stopped playing solitaire on their smart device?
It's tough, because in the city council meeting, you're basically limited to just 2 or 3 minutes. You state your case, and then the city council can just ignore you and not say anything. So try to hit on several issues. One is like, is there really a problem in the city? The other is, how much money is this going to cost the city? Is business going to go someplace else? And the amazing thing is that a lot of the city council members just openly ignore those things, or they'll say, well, we understand our city is, and Campbell, one of the council members, said, our city is probably benefiting because we haven't banned plastic bags yet. San Jose has, and so we know, and I know that Campbell was like the #1 destination of people in San Jose. He said, I'm just to shop in Campbell. But the city council member says, but it's kind of not fair to our sister cities, And you go,
it's a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I know, it's a competitive advantage, which you'd never give away in the business marketplace. They say things like that. Or in Los Gatos, I stood up and said, hey, listen, like 65% of the people writing in were against the bag ban. You had a public meeting. 2/3 of the people showing up there were against it. You had people calling up, like 80 or 90% of the people calling up were against it. There was an online poll by the local newspaper, and the majority, again, was against it. Mm-hmm. Everybody's against it. And the council member said, well, that's like a small group of people. I represent everybody. And so they just kind of pass these things off. So not a lot really sticks to council members. It's mostly decided, by the time it comes up for the vote, and you can kind of make your public case against it. But this issue is not really about the facts. It's a lot about the emotions. They want to do something that feels green. Mm-hmm. They've got some competition with the other cities around them that are doing it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the gee, aren't you green kind of feeling.
These people just don't believe in science or logic or anything. That's just the crazy part.
Yeah, and they try to. And they try to say, well, here's a bag choking a bird or something, and use that and extrapolate it. But, for a long time we tried to battle like the kind of the technical issues or the scientific issues, saying this is not true, that's not true. And there's a lot of wild claims out there, and you can go through and say they're all not true, but at the end of the day, it's basically about the council member wants to feel good about themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, or have you guys done anything more, or contemplated doing anything more at the state or even at the county level to try to get a wider ban on the ban initiative going?
Yeah, so the what the bag banners, we call them, are trying to do is they're going around to all the city councils, in mostly liberal areas, and getting city councils to ban the bags in the city. And even the city council members have said, they're looking to the state to do something, but they're doing it at the city level to send a message to the state. Because what happens is they get up to like 70 cities now, over 70 that have banned bags in California. Then they go to the state level and say, look, 70 have banned it, you need to do it statewide. And then the state said no last year. It was narrowly voted down. So next year they'll go and they'll say, okay, we have 85 now. You know, you need to ban it in California. So they're going around and they're getting local cities to ban them to put pressure at the state level. So we think what needs to happen is one or several cities need to actually take a vote, because none of the city councils put it to a vote of the people. So if some cities stand up and they say, well, no, we don't want it, they vote it down, that's probably what we think is the best way to kind of stop it.
So the question is, have you seen any situations nationwide that someone has been able to reverse a bag ban and stop the bag grabbers in their tracks?
Well, we've seen a couple cities where it's been put to a vote of the people and then they overturned it, like in Oregon, and there was a case in Colorado. There's actually 2 in Colorado where people got enough signatures to put it to a vote. And actually in one city it barely went the way of the bag ban, and the other way it went the other way, the other city. So kind of 50-50 there. In Oregon they overturned it, and there's going to be some in Washington now. So it's mostly local people at local levels kind of driving it to a vote.
And so these campaigns usually take a lot of funding to get properly promoted and everything else. Any stats at all on whether or not it was grassroots versus big grocery money or something like that that eked out those other elections, or was it just done totally grassroots and let the emotions fall where they may?
Yeah, a lot of these, you mean the votes that went?
The ones that went to votes in Colorado or Washington or wherever.
It was mostly people like me or somebody that stood up and said, we want the people to vote. Let's collect signatures, let's force it to a vote. They're all individual. Like, our group doesn't get any money from any of the big companies or anything. We're just citizens. They seem to be, like, the bigger companies seem to be battling things more at like the state level or with legal reasons, but with legal arguments, I mean. But what we're doing is we're kind of saying at the kind of the grassroots level, can we get enough signatures, drive it to a vote of the people, and let the people vote? I mean, one of the big issues about the bag ban is that before a bag ban, people can get bags or they can use reusable bags. It's their choice, right? The bag ban really just has the government forcing you into one particular choice.
Right.
And so we're saying let us keep having our choice.
But it's only bags. It's not like healthcare or anything else. Like, that's just one isolated incident, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part about big government, is it decides that it knows better than you do how you should live your life, right?
Yeah.
So in the last minute or so we have left, any closing thoughts you want to leave us with, and how can people find out more information about stopping the bag bans?
Well, we have a website at stopthebagban.com. And people can go there. We have a lot of things we put up, a lot of reasons why the bag bans are bad or don't really stand up to scrutiny, which is one of the easiest things. You just start scrutinizing some of the arguments, along with some other information and arguments and contact and sign-up lists. People can get on the mailing list. People can contact us if they're interested in their city and doing something. And then I can also put people in touch with other organizations in their local area. If there is one. And
so they can get to you through it's the stopthebagban.com website?
Right. That's right.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, Don, thank you for joining us this evening and educating us a little bit about something that I know makes people crazy where I'm from. And if you'll hold on for just a moment, we'll be back after a word from our underwriter, the Conservative Forum.
The Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley began with 20 conservatives meeting at a restaurant in November of 2003. Our mission is to promote the principles of American liberty through education. By 2012, we had grown to over 600 paid members. Our monthly meetings feature well-known and prestigious conservative speakers addressing issues that are critical to our country's very survival. This includes speakers like Victor Davis Hanson, Andrew Breitbart, David Horowitz, and many others. In addition to our monthly meetings, we sponsor a conservative local cable access TV show, The Right Side, covering today's topics. Our Constitution discussion group not only teaches the Constitution, but started our annual essay contest that awards 2 $1,000 scholarships to local high school seniors. We are a virtual clearinghouse for grassroots organizations by providing them with table space at no charge in our exhibit area. There are typically a dozen groups represented. If you are like-minded, join us at our next meeting and become motivated and empowered. Liberty, made in America.
And welcome back to The Right Side. That was a word from our underwriter, the Conservative Forum. And although we appreciate tremendously the idea that they are underwriters of the show, what they're best known for is their speaker series. And as, for example, tonight, what you'll find if you're there around 7 o'clock this evening at 432 Steerland Road here in Mountain View, is that you'll be joined by Robert Spencer, the founder of Jihad Watch. And next month, in November, it will be Senator Jim DeMint, the president of the Heritage Foundation, and it'll be a special celebration because it's the 10th anniversary of the forum. In December, Michael Ramirez, senior editor and editorial cartoonist of Investors Business Daily, will be with us. And in January, Evan Sayet, author and political satirist. And then in February, actually, it looks like on the 14th, Valentine's Day, it'll be a special event with Victor Davis Hanson, who's always a popular speaker at the forum. If you'd like more information on that, you can go to theconservativeforum.com and get what you need there. Now, stopping bag bans may seem on the surface, as I said earlier, something that not many people would pay attention to, but it's one that just causes irate behavior. And in fact, I behave badly at grocery stores just because I can't help it. I tend to make a deal of the fact that I refuse to carry bags, and I won't buy anything from them that's more than I can carry. And a lot of times what's interesting is that not only the checker, but all of the people around us object. And as Don said, this is not just an issue about bags. It's not an issue just because there's more dog poop in your neighborhood now because people aren't carrying the bags with them to clean it up. It really is kind of a freedom issue. And it's just one of those symptoms that if we don't watch it, that the government will intrude in all sorts of ways in our daily lives. And some of them are small, some of them are large. But the point is, if we don't stand up on the little stuff, they'll continue to take advantage on that as well as the much bigger items. So do a little bit of research for yourself. Check out stopthebagban.com and learn more. And if you're just looking for a reason to fight with people, it's a great topic. Like I said, you'll have plenty of people joining by your side to do it very quickly thereafter. At this point, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. I've been your host, Chris Pareja, and this has been The Right Side. And we'll look forward to seeing you again in person or on the show sometime soon. Have a great night.